Elven Princess and the Book of Stars. Under a blanket of eternal twilight, the Elven kingdom lay veiled in mystery. Its forests swathed in silvered shadows and its skies a testament to timeless beauty. Stars shimmered in countless patterns above, casting their ethereal glow down upon ancient trees and crystal-clear streams. It was a place of secrets and wisdom, a realm steeped in legends that whispered through the rustling leaves and echoed in the starlit winds. And at the heart of this celestial kingdom was a hidden sanctuary, where only the most honored of elves could tread. Within this sanctuary stood Princess Elandra, a slender figure bathed in the pale light of the heavens. Her silver hair gleamed like woven moonlight, her eyes filled with the quiet intensity of 1,000 unspoken tales. She was the guardian of the Book of Stars, a title that demanded a profound understanding of celestial mysteries and an unwavering devotion to the kingdom's most ancient artifact. The Book of Stars rested on a pedestal carved from the wood of an ancient tree, each page glowing faintly as if infused with the starlight itself. Its cover was bound in enchanted leather, adorned with symbols so old that their meanings were known only to the stars. And within its pages lay the fate of every star in the sky, an intricate tapestry of light and destiny, a map not only of the heavens, but of the very lives tied to those distant fires. As Elandra brushed her hand over the book, she felt its wisdom pulsing beneath her fingertips. A quiet hum, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. She opened it, and words written in silvery ink began to shimmer across the page. But this night, the words held a strange urgency. The stars' patterns seemed to shift and dance before her, almost as though they were reaching out, warning her. Elandra had been trained to understand the signs of the heavens, to know when their dance was more than mere beauty. And tonight, she sensed it, a tremor in the constellations, an unseen ripple that traveled through the sky and straight into her heart. She closed her eyes, allowing the stars to speak to her in their silent language. In her mind's eye, she saw it. A dark shadow slinking through the night, coiling itself around constellations, seeking their light with greedy claws. And there, in the shadow's grasp, the stars dimmed, their light obscured by a malevolent force that crept closer and closer to the Elven sanctuary. Someone or something is trying to seize the stars, she whispered, a shiver running down her spine. The vision faded, and Elandra's eyes snapped open. Her heart pounded, as if echoing the urgency she'd felt from the stars. She knew she was the only one who could decipher their warning. Yet the threat she sensed was unlike any she had encountered before. This was not the mere turning of fate. It was a force seeking to alter the stars themselves, to rewrite the destinies etched into the heavens. Elandra's first thought was of her people, her kin who looked to the stars for guidance. If someone tampered with the celestial tapestry, the consequences could be disastrous. The Elven kingdom had long guarded the wisdom of the stars, but now it was no longer safe in her hands alone. She needed someone with courage, someone with a soul anchored in earth, yet open to the mysteries of the heavens. A name formed in her mind, one she had heard spoken only in tales of bravery and loyalty. Torin, a dwarf of uncommon strength and honor. She had never met him, but the legends of his deeds had reached even the sanctuary. Dwarves were rarely seen in elven lands, yet she knew that if anyone could help her protect the Book of Stars, it would be him. And though her people distrusted the stoic dwarves, Elandra sensed a kinship with Torin, a connection that spanned beyond elven distrust or dwarven pride. With resolve settling over her, Elandra closed the book and traced a hand over its cover, a silent vow passing from her heart to the stars above. "Tomorrow," she murmured to the night, "I will seek Torin. The stars have chosen him as much as they have chosen me." The sanctuary dimmed as she wrapped the book in layers of enchanted cloth, concealing it from prying eyes. She felt the weight of her duty pressing upon her, a heaviness as endless as the sky. Yet beneath that weight lay the faintest spark of hope, a glimmer as small and bright as a distant star. As she stepped from the sanctuary and looked up at the constellations, Elandra felt their gaze upon her, silent and patient, awaiting the path she would choose. And in the quiet of that night, under the vigilant watch of the stars, she resolved to protect their secrets with her life, no matter the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. Dawn broke gently over the Elven kingdom, its light sifting through the forest like whispers of old songs. Elandra moved swiftly along narrow paths, her steps silent as a shadow slipping through morning mist. Her mind was set on the dwarf, Torin, the one she believed the stars had summoned to aid her. But the journey to find him would not be easy. Dwarves lived beyond the dense forests and steep hills that guarded her people's lands, and they rarely welcomed elves unannounced. Yet Elandra felt the stars guiding her, their silent urging steadying her pace. She trusted their wisdom, even as she ventured into territory as foreign as the mountains where the dwarves made their homes. With each step, she sensed the eyes of the trees and spirits upon her, watching her departure from the sanctuary with a curious, perhaps even skeptical gaze. By midday, Elandra found herself nearing the borders of her realm, and there, at the edge of a cliff that overlooked the great valley of the dwarves, she saw him. Torin was taller than she'd expected, his broad shoulders and formidable frame casting a long shadow in the noonday sun. His hair was dark as river stones, and his beard braided with small metal rings, glinting faintly as he worked at the edge of the cliff, chiseling rock into strange symbols she did not recognize. As she approached, He looked up, his eyes narrowing as they met hers. A moment of silence passed between them, heavy with the unspoken histories of their people. Elandra knew that Torin would be wary. Dwarves were cautious by nature, and he had no reason to trust an elven stranger. Torin, son of Thorin, Elandra said, her voice calm yet ringing with authority. I come not as a stranger, but as one called by the stars. They have spoken to me, and they have chosen you as my ally. Torin's expression remained impassive, though his eyes flickered with curiosity. Elves and stars, he murmured, as if tasting the words, forever tangled in mysteries. His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder echoing in the mountains. But I am no starkeeper, elf. Why seek me? Elandra took a step closer, unflinching. Because the fate of the heavens, and perhaps of our world, is under threat. The Book of Stars, our kingdom's most sacred artifact, is no longer safe. Shadows creep into our lands, reaching for the stars themselves. I have seen them in my visions, Torin, and they are not of this world. Torin listened, his brow furrowing, and a glint of understanding sparked in his eyes. Though distrust ran deep between their peoples, he sensed truth in her words. Dwarves valued honor and courage, and her conviction stirred something in him that no simple tale could. Darkness creeping into the light, you say, he mused, setting down his tools. My kin know of shadows that linger, of forces best left undisturbed. But what would you ask of me, elf princess? Elandra clasped her hands, her gaze steady. I ask that you come with me. Protect the book by my side. The stars have whispered your name, Torin. They have spoken of your courage, your loyalty. Alone, I fear I cannot hold back the shadows. But together, perhaps we can save what remains of our world's light. For a moment, Torin said nothing, his eyes lost in some distant thought. Finally, he nodded, his expression resolved. If the stars call me, I will answer. But understand this, princess. I do not pledge myself lightly. I fight for truth and honor, not for elves or kingdoms. Elandra's lips curved into a faint smile. Truth and honor are all I ask of you. With a gruff nod, Torin gathered his tools and strapped them to his belt. Together, they began the journey back to the elven lands, moving through quiet woods and over whispering streams. Elandra shared tales of her people's bond with the stars, and Torin spoke of his ancestors, of the mountains they called home, and the deep, mysterious veins of earth they cherished. Despite their differences, an unexpected camaraderie grew between them, as if the land itself wove a bond in the spaces where their words fell silent. As evening approached, the sanctuary lay just beyond the final rise, veiled in twilight's shadows. But as they neared, a chill passed over them, and Elandra felt the hairs on her arms prickling, a warning she could not ignore. Do you sense it? She whispered, stopping mid-step. Torin's hand went instinctively to his axe, his face hardening. Yes, there's a foulness in the air. Something unnatural lurks nearby. Elandra swallowed, her eyes narrowing as they scanned the darkening forest. They had arrived, but the journey's end was fraught with danger. Whatever shadow she had glimpsed in her visions was no longer confined to dreams. It had crossed the threshold into their world, lingering at the edges of their reality, waiting for the moment to strike. "Stay close," Elandra murmured. Her voice steeled with resolve. "We cannot allow it to reach the book." Together, they stepped forward, moving into the sanctuary's depths as night settled around them. And though the stars shone above, bright and unblinking, a faint shadow slid across their light, casting a veil over the path ahead. The sanctuary was eerily silent as Elandra and Torin crossed its threshold. The night had fallen fully, and the stars above seemed distant, shrouded in a haze that neither could explain. The air grew heavy, tinged with a bitterness that clung to their skin. Elandra sensed it like a low pulsing thrum, echoing the dread she'd felt in her vision. In the center of the sanctuary, the Book of Stars rested on its ancient pedestal, a faint glow emanating from its pages. Yet tonight, that light was dim, as though something unseen drained its strength. Elandra's heart clenched at the sight. She knew without a doubt that the shadows she had foreseen were closer than ever, lurking beyond the walls of the sanctuary, drawing nearer with each passing moment. Torin's grip on his axe tightened, his eyes scanning the darkness. "This place, it feels wrong, as though the air itself carries a curse." Elandra nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "The book is in danger. I can feel it. There's something here, something that wishes to twist its power." A sudden gust swept through the sanctuary, rustling the pages of the book with a sound like brittle leaves. The temperature dropped sharply, their breath misting before them as shadows began to seep in from every corner, coiling like tendrils of smoke. And then, from the depths of that darkness, shapes began to form. Creatures twisted and formless, their eyes gleaming with a sickly, unnatural light. Elandra and Torin stood side by side, their eyes locked on the figures emerging from the shadows. The creatures moved silently, gliding across the floor as if floating. Their bodies shimmered, hinting at a form, but never fully taking one. They were like wraiths, things born from the nightmares of an ancient past. "Malakar," Elandra murmured, her voice thick with a dread she could scarcely suppress. She had heard legends of the dark sorcerer, a name that echoed through Elven lore as a cautionary tale. He was a being who had once sought control over the stars themselves, his greed bound only by his own twisted ambition. But to her knowledge, he had been lost to time, until now. "Who?" Torin's voice was tense, his stance ready. "An ancient sorcerer, cursed by the stars for attempting to bind their light to his own power, she explained. It seems his curse has not deterred him. He's come for the book, to unchain himself from fate. Torin's jaw clenched. Then he'll find dwarven steel ready to meet him. One of the wraiths lunged forward, its form stretching and bending, its limbs like smoke as it reached for the book. In a swift motion, Torin stepped forward, his axe slicing through the creature. A shrill, inhuman scream echoed as the wraith dissipated, but two more took its place, their shadows deepening as they closed in around Elandra and Torin. Elandra raised her hands, murmuring an incantation in the ancient Elven tongue. Light blossomed from her fingertips, a faint, bluish glow that seemed to repel the darkness momentarily. The wraiths recoiled, their forms writhing as they hissed in protest. But even as her magic flared, Elandra could feel it wavering, as though something drained her strength, feeding off her very essence. A voice, dark and hollow, filled the sanctuary. It was neither a whisper nor a shout, but something that crept into their minds, clawing at their thoughts. "Princess Elandra," the voice drawled, each syllable dripping with malice. "You cling to destiny like a moth to flame, but fate is a brittle thing, easily snapped. Surrender the book, and you may yet be spared." Elandra stiffened, her gaze narrowing. "I know you, Malakar. You may haunt the stars, but you will not twist their light to suit your darkness." A deep, mocking laugh echoed through the room. "And yet here you stand, weakened by their power, trembling before shadows." Torin stepped forward, his voice defiant. "I don't tremble before shadows. Face us, sorcerer, or hide in your coward's cloak." Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Then a figure emerged from the darkness. A tall, cloaked form with eyes that gleamed like distant dying stars. Malakar's face was pale, his expression twisted with a bitter arrogance. His cloak seemed woven from shadow itself, billowing around him as though alive. "You are fools," he sneered, his gaze flicking dismissively over them. "The book belongs to those who command fate, not mere watchers of it." Elandra felt a surge of anger, her resolve hardening. "The stars entrusted us with their wisdom. We protect, not command." Malakar's eyes glinted, a cruel smile playing at his lips. "Then prepare to die with your precious stars." With a flick of his hand, the wraiths swarmed forward, their shrieks piercing the air. Elandra summoned her light, but it faltered under the weight of Malakar's shadowy force. Torin's axe flashed as he struck down one creature after another, but they were relentless, reforming from the darkness as if born of endless night. Elandra felt the sanctuary slipping from her grasp, the shadows pressing in, coiling tighter. In that moment, she realized the gravity of their struggle. Malakar's power grew with each passing moment, and unless they found a way to stop him, the Book of Stars and the fate of every light in the heavens would be lost to darkness forever. "Fall back," she whispered urgently to Torin, her voice tight with desperation. "There may be a way, but we must retreat." Together they pulled back, slipping into the forest. As they fled into the night, Elandra's mind raced. There was one place where hope might lie, a hidden grove steeped in ancient starlight, a source of power that might tip the scales. But reaching it would test both her bond with Torin and her courage to stand against the darkness that sought to swallow the stars whole. The forest lay in shadow, silent, but for the hurried breaths of Elandra and Torin as they wove through the trees. The sanctuary was far behind them now, swallowed by the night and the malevolent presence of Malakar. Yet ahead, through the veils of darkness, there was a place Elandra had only heard of in the oldest tales, the Heart of Starlight. Legends whispered that the heart was a sacred grove hidden deep within the forest, where ancient starlight pooled like silvered mist, imbued with power older than time. It was a place untouched by mortal hands, known only to a few elven sages and kept secret even from their kin. Elandra had never seen it, but the stars had sung to her of its power. And now, with shadows closing in, she could feel its faint glow pulling her forward. "We're close," she murmured, her voice almost lost in the dense silence. Torin glanced at her, his gaze sharp despite the exhaustion etched in his face. "This heart, what exactly will it do? I'm no stranger to stories, but light alone won't defeat Malakar." Elandra shook her head, her expression unreadable. The heart holds the power of the stars themselves. It is not mere light, but a force born from creation, a strength that Malakar's darkness cannot abide. With it, we might protect the Book of Stars, if we can reach it in time. Torin grunted, his grip tightening on his axe. "Then lead on, princess. I'll hold whatever shadows dare to follow." They pressed forward, the forest thickening around them. Branches twisted in eerie shapes, and strange lights flickered at the edges of their vision, as though the very forest held its breath, waiting for what lay ahead. Elandra's steps quickened, guided by a pull stronger than any earthly compass, her heart attuned to the faint whisper of starlight that beckoned her deeper. At last they emerged into a glade bathed in a silvery glow. A circle of ancient trees towered overhead, their branches woven together to form a canopy that shimmered with stardust. The ground was carpeted in soft moss, glistening with droplets of light that seemed to breathe, waxing and waning in rhythm with the stars above. In the center of the grove lay a shallow pool, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the night sky in perfect clarity. "The Heart of Starlight," Elandra breathed, awe filling her voice. Torin stood beside her, his rugged face softened by the glow. "It's more than I expected. It feels alive." Elandra nodded, stepping toward the pool. As she knelt beside it, the water stirred and the stars reflected within began to shift, aligning themselves into a pattern that pulsed with power. She knew what she had to do. Carefully, she dipped her hands into the water, feeling a surge of cold, tingling energy course through her, like holding a piece of the night sky itself. With eyes closed, she murmured an ancient invocation, calling upon the stars to lend her their strength. The light around her intensified, enveloping her in a silvery aura that flickered like distant constellations. Elandra felt the knowledge and power of her ancestors merging with her own spirit, filling her with a fierce resolve. She was no longer just a guardian. She was a vessel of starlight, bound to protect the destiny woven into the heavens. Torin watched in silent awe, his hand resting on the hilt of his axe. But as the light surged, he sensed a familiar chill creeping into the grove. The shadows, relentless as the tides, had followed them. A voice slithered through the air, mocking and filled with venom. "Did you think you could escape me, princess? The stars cannot protect you here." Malakar emerged from the darkness, his form rippling like a shadow given flesh, his eyes gleaming with a cold, malevolent hunger. Behind him, wraiths swirled, their spectral forms blurring the boundary between night and nightmare. Elandra rose, the starlight radiating from her in waves, filling the grove with an intensity that caused the shadows to recoil. Yet Malakar held his ground, his gaze locked on her with a hatred born of ages. "You have no claim here, Malakar," she declared, her voice unwavering. "This place is sacred, a realm of the stars. You cannot corrupt it." Malakar's lips twisted into a sneer. "The stars? They are nothing but points of light, illusions of power. And power, dear princess, is mine to command." He raised his hand, and darkness unfurled from his palm, tendrils reaching for Elandra and the pool. But Torin was already in motion, his axe cleaving through the shadows with a strength born of dwarven resilience. He fought with relentless determination, each swing of his axe pushing the wraiths back, his presence a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. Elandra stepped forward, her hands still glowing with the power of the heart. She focused on Malakar, her voice steady and strong. "You have no place in the heavens, Malakar. Return to the shadows that spawned you." As she spoke, she felt the starlight concentrate within her, a blinding radiance that pulsed from her chest, expanding outward like a wave. The light collided with Malakar's darkness, and for a moment, the grove was filled with a blinding brilliance that forced even the wraiths to retreat, shrieking in pain. Malakar staggered, his form flickering, and a look of desperation twisted his features. "This is not the end," he spat, his voice a hateful snarl. "The stars may be eternal, but even they can be undone." With a final furious glare, he melted back into the shadows, retreating into the depths of the forest, his wraiths vanishing like smoke on the wind. The grove returned to silence, the starlight still shimmering in Elandra's aura. Torin approached her, his face etched with relief. "He'll be back, won't he?" Elandra nodded, her eyes fixed on the stars. "Yes, but now we have the heart's blessing. With this power, we stand a chance. For as long as the stars endure, we will guard their light." And so they began their journey back to the sanctuary, the stars guiding their path through the night, their resolve hardened by the power of the Heart of Starlight, and their spirits ready to face the darkness once more. The sanctuary loomed ahead, bathed in the cold light of distant stars. Shadows flickered along its edges, but they dared not touch the path as Elandra and Torin returned, the faint glow of starlight still lingering around them. The night was deep and silent, the air tense as though the very world held its breath. As they stepped inside, the Book of Stars awaited on its pedestal, its pages shimmering softly, almost as if aware of their presence. Elandra felt a pulse within her, a connection to the book, strengthened by the heart's blessing. But she knew Malakar would come again. He was bound to the darkness, an endless hunger for power that would drive him to the book no matter the cost. "Prepare yourself," she whispered to Torin, her voice edged with resolve. "Malakar's hatred is like a shadow. It clings to places of light. He will come for us soon." Torin tightened his grip on his axe, his stance firm. "Let him come. We'll make him regret his greed." As if summoned by their words, a chill swept through the sanctuary, and the light around the book flickered, dimming under an unseen weight. Shadows began to seep into the room, sliding across the floor and walls, coiling like smoke around the pedestal. And then, from the darkness, Malakar's figure emerged, his form more monstrous than before, twisted by rage and desperation. His eyes blazed like dying stars, fierce and hollow. "Did you truly think you could defy me?" he sneered, his voice like a serpent's hiss. "The stars may favor you now, princess, but their light cannot burn forever. I am as eternal as the darkness itself." Elandra stepped forward, the starlight in her hands glowing brighter in defiance. "You are a shadow, Malakar, nothing more. You feed on fear and darkness, but the stars endure beyond you." Malakar's eyes narrowed, his voice dripping with malice. "Then watch as I rip them from the heavens." With a sweep of his hand, he summoned a torrent of darkness, the shadows swirling like a storm, clawing toward the Book of Stars. The air turned frigid, filled with a suffocating pressure that pressed upon Elandra and Torin, threatening to extinguish their light. But Elandra's connection to the Heart of Starlight held strong, a steady pulse within her chest that pushed back against the crushing dark. "Now!" she called to Torin. Torin surged forward, his axe blazing with a faint, enchanted glow, gifted by the heart. He swung it with all his might, the blade cutting through Malakar's shadows like dawn, breaking over a long night. The shadows recoiled, writhing as they scattered. Yet Malakar remained, his form reforming, as endless and relentless as his malice. Elandra raised her hands, summoning the power of the stars. The light around her grew, casting beams that sliced through the darkness, filling the sanctuary with a radiance that reached even into the depths of Malakar's soul. She focused on him, channeling the power from the heart, her voice strong and unwavering. By the power of the stars, I cast you back into the void from which you came. Malakar snarled, his body twisting in agony, but his hatred fueled him still. With a roar, he lunged toward the book, his hand outstretched, inches from its cover. But before he could touch it, Torin threw himself between Malakar and the book, his axe raised in a final defiant strike. "You'll not have it, sorcerer," Torin growled, his eyes blazing with determination. The clash was fierce, a blinding collision of light and dark, starlight clashing against shadow. The air crackled, the ground trembling beneath them. Elandra poured all her strength into her light, her focus unwavering, even as Malakar's power pressed against her, a force that felt as cold and unforgiving as death itself. But in the heart of that battle, Elandra sensed something deeper, a faint, flickering remnant of Malakar's mortal self, buried beneath his hunger for power. She hesitated, a thought forming, an understanding blooming in her heart. She reached out with her light, not in attack, but in an offering of peace. "Malakar," she called softly, her voice carrying a note of compassion. "Release your hatred. The stars will not harm you. There is still light for those who seek it." For a fleeting moment, Malakar's face softened, a glimmer of humanity breaking through his fury. But just as quickly, the darkness surged back, his features hardening as he sneered. "Light! For me! You fool, I am beyond light!" With a final surge of malice, he lunged forward, but his power faltered, flickering like a candle in the wind. The light surrounding Elandra grew, overwhelming the shadows, wrapping around Malakar like a net of pure starlight. He let out a scream, a sound filled with pain and regret, echoing through the sanctuary as his form dissolved, the darkness unraveling, fading like mist under the sun. And then, silence. The sanctuary was still, the air clear once more. The shadows had vanished, leaving only the faint, steady glow of the Book of Stars on its pedestal. Elandra and Torin stood side by side, breathing heavily, their faces bathed in the gentle light of victory. "It is done," Elandra whispered, her voice soft with relief. Torin let out a weary laugh, his eyes shining with pride. "Aye, the stars endure, thanks to you." Elandra turned to him, gratitude filling her gaze. "Thanks to us both, Torin. The Heart of Starlight led me to you, and without your courage, we could not have held back the darkness." Together, they placed their hands upon the book, feeling the warmth of the starlight flow through them. A silent acknowledgement of their victory and the balance they had restored. The sanctuary felt lighter, as though a weight had been lifted from its ancient stones, and the stars above shone brighter than ever, a testament to their triumph. As dawn approached, Elandra and Torin left the sanctuary, walking side by side beneath a sky still speckled with the fading light of stars. Their journey had bound them in ways deeper than they could yet understand. Their fates entwined like constellations woven across the night. And as they parted at the edge of the Elven forest, a single truth lingered in their hearts: that the stars were not merely silent watchers, but living guides, offering light even in the darkest of nights, and that their bond, born of starlight and shadow, would endure as long as the stars themselves.